So my name is Ian, and I get to head up this circus, right? And in a moment, we'll have all of you introduce yourselves and talk about why you decided to come and be a part. How many of you were able to print out your handouts, bring your binder, that kind of a thing? No? Bad. And you guys don't have you don't have any of that, right? Yeah, what's that? Okay, so one of the challenges will be, let's see if we can work to print. Can we print some handouts? If I give you the file? Can we print? Can we print something off so you have, what's that? Yeah? Will you grab my suitcase, my briefcase? It's right there by the wash machine. Yep. So we'll try to see if we can get you what you need so that you can participate. Okay, so this program, this Leadership Bootcamp program, is a unique learning model and a unique learning experience. Some of you have had an opportunity to watch the orientation video. Obviously, some of you have not had an opportunity to watch the orientation video. But one way or another, we'll bring you up to speed on the program, the roles and responsibilities, the way the learning model works, and set your heads and hearts in the right place for 15 weeks of learning. So, as everybody recalls, 15 weeks, comprehensive leadership development program. And we're doing it all across the region. And I'll give you some background as soon as I find a thumb drive. I'll give you some background of how it began and where it started. Do you have one? You're awesome. And we'll give you the purposes of it. But before we do that, why don't we have everybody introduce themselves, and if you work for a company, the company you work for, or if you're connected with an organization, the organization you're connected with. And we'll start with you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Beverly, and I have the absolute privilege of being a partnership consultant for Northline School Division and Osley. And I support kids, I support communities, and I really am so happy to share this experience with all of you today. Thank you.
Very good.
Hey everyone, my name is Liz Perry-Reed. I work for Osley, the Oil Sands Leadership Initiative, as the pilot lead for Janvier. That's it.
My name is Ross Mayer. I work for the Regional Municipality and Economic Development, and I spend most of my time in the rural hamlets doing community economic development, youth initiatives, and business planning, and a number of other things.
My name is Janine Cruz. I work with the Regional Municipality of Buffalo. I am with the Aboriginal and Rural Relations Branch, and I am a South Advisor.
Awesome. Ron.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ron Sturgis Sr. I come from Anzac. I work for Nexon as the Economic Development Specialist. I'm also a Scoutmaster and the football coach in Anzac.
Awesome. Do you know Akil Ahmed?
I do.
Good guy. He's a good guy.
Lisa Glasky, RMWB, North of Buffalo.
Okay. Am?
Myself, I'm Valerie Quintel. I work with the municipality with Buffalo and Water Treatment, and from Conklin to Anzac, River Lake. So, other than that, I live in Conklin. So.
Very good.
Hello everybody, Keith Black. I work with Squia. Still learning.
Awesome. Yes.
Hello, I'm Cheyenne. I work with Sequoia. I'm in the program.
Very good. Yes.
Rebecca Black, I'm going to Sequoia.
Very good. I've met this young man before. Good to see you again. Awesome.
Travis Black. I work with Sequoia.
Very good.
My name is Bernadette Buchanan. I am the Office Administrator for Turco, and I volunteer my time with Sequoia.
Awesome. And my name's Ian. And a year and a half ago, I came to Fort McMurray, the region of Wood Buffalo, to be a part of a conference called Leading the North. And it was myself and Peter Mansbridge and the founder of Greenpeace and a whole bunch of other people. And it was my first experience here. And they asked me to kick off this big conference. And people from all over the world came to Fort McMurray, a lot of resource companies and others. And they said, Ian, will you launch this conference? And I did. And at the end of that, they said, Ian, would you come back? We'd like you to come back. So I did. And they said, Ian, would you come back again? And I was like, you guys are starting to get a little weird. It's like you're groupies. I don't want to talk to you anymore. No, I said, sure, yeah, I'll come on back. And so I came back. And in June of last year, the CAO of the regional municipality, Glenn, and his deputy, and a lady named Joanne Roberts, they sat down and had supper with me. And they said, Ian, what do you think? You've now had an opportunity to transverse the regional municipality. You've been all through it. What do you think? And I said, what do I think about what? They said, well, you said, because I did say this, that we have the opportunity to create something special here. You said we could be a defining community in the 21st century, which I did say that. And I based that on a couple of different things. One, that there's enough natural resources here to last 3 lifetimes. Largest industrial project in the history of mankind is what, from, corner to corner, top to bottom, it's the largest industrial project in the history of mankind. So you have resources. And I said, and you've brought in, and people are coming literally from all over the world. Literally talent from all over the world. I was in a building, there's a person from every country on the planet in that building in Fort McMurray. So you have people coming from everywhere. And then finally, for whatever reason, there's a bunch of people trying to do cool things, trying to do innovative things and creative things. So all of that stuff is happening. So I think you could do something special. And they said, well, or what? And I said, or you'll just be another boom town that frittered away the opportunity to do something special. And that history is strewn with those kind of places. I mean, we could go back to the Dutch Empire, the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, and we would see boom areas that then 20 years, 50 years, 10 years, 5 years later are nothing. I have a place down in the States by a place called Virginia City. And Virginia City was the first silver mine before California took off, right? $6 billion came out of that town in a 3-year period. $6 billion. That's a lot of money. Today, what is it? Nothing. At the time, it was one of the most wealthiest places in the world. The finest theaters, the Piper Opera House. People literally came from all over the world to the Piper Opera House. You walk in there now, it's just a tourist trap. Trinkets they're selling. So we can't arrogantly think that this is forever, because it's not forever. And I said, so you're either going to be one or the other, man. You're either going to be something special because the stars have aligned and something could be created here that's unique and different, or you're just going to be another one of a long list of people that frittered away the opportunity. And then I said this to all the leaders, the 500 or 600 that were there. You were there that night. I said, and history will judge you. Make no mistake. 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25, 50, and 100 years from now, people are going to look back and say, look at those clowns. Or, wow, look what they pulled off. So Glenn and Brian and Joanne said, so what do we need to do? What would you recommend needs to happen? And I said, leaders. You need more leaders. Not that the leadership that is here is bad or wrong or ineffective. There's just not enough. So over the next 7 to 10 years, this area, from top to bottom of the region of Wood Buffalo, right? All the way up to the top, all the way down to the bottom, north to south and side to side, will grow another 75 to 100,000 people. Well, you don't have enough leadership to catch up with that. And what I mean by leadership is the people in all the little corners and all the little silo. The guy that helps run the scouts. The lady that does the Girl Guides. People that help with the sports teams and people that help with the faith-based groups and all of those things that make a town or a city worth living in. You need leaders in all of that. And the crazy thing is that normally that takes about 7 to 10 years. So let's say I'm a 22, 23-year-old I get a job, I start to get involved in my community. It takes about 7 to 10 years for me to be a well-heeled, established leader that can get things done and make things happen. Well, do you have 7 to 10 years? No, you don't have 7 to 10 years. You need to lead it right now. And so Glenn looked at me and he basically said this, so what are you going to do about that? And I was like, what am I going to do about it? I don't even live here, man. Don't get me in this whole thing. What are you going to do about that? And I said, how about this? What if we took 500 people and put them through 15 weeks of comprehensive leadership from all sectors, all silos, and all corners, and then cascaded them back out into the community? Let's just train them up to be leaders and then cascade them back out into the community. What if we did that? What if we accelerated that 7 to 10 years? Let's do it. So last year we did that. And we had close to 500 people that went through that program. Mostly in Fort McMurray. High school students, college students, seniors, executives, moms. Frontline employees, mid-level managers. 16-year-old high school students, 70-year-old, 75-year-old senior citizens. Just people. And we got done in December, and I was like, okay, see you later, y'all. I'm going south for the winter. Talk to you later. And they were like, oh, wait a minute. Well, we want to do it again. And I said, well, that's not the way this thing was set up. We'll just do it one time and take everything and put it on a learning portal, and everybody can access it that way. And somebody said, and he was one of them, well, wait a minute, what about the rural communities? What about Fort Chip, and what about Janvier and Anzac and these other places? What about those people? They didn't have an opportunity to participate. And I could see where that was going. How many of you know I could see where that was going? And I was like, well, I guess if we really are sincere about making sure that everybody has an opportunity to acquire the skills to be an effective leader, then I bet you we should go to them. And that's today. So we're doing it again. This time we're taking about 350, 380 people and putting it through. In Fort Chip, here in Janvier, and in Fort McMurray. We already kicked off the Fort Chip and Fort Chip and Fort McMurray at the beginning of the month. So they've already started. They're into their 4th week. And today we're kicking you off. A 15-week comprehensive leadership development program. Now, for some of you, you haven't watched the orientation video. You don't know all the particulars. So you'll get some of that today. And we'll give you the information where you can go get the rest of it. Others, they have heard. But at the end of the day, 15 weeks to equip you to be an effective community leader. Why? So that when history looks back and judges all of us, we can be able to look people square in the eye and say, we did everything we could to build a phenomenal place that would not only impact us and our families and the generation to come, but had an impact across the world. And we're not going to be just another one of those communities down, of resource community, if you will, or resource communities. We're going to take the opportunity and create a beacon of hope that would shine not only across Alberta, not only across Canada, but across the world. So that's what this is about. This is about equipping yourself to be a world-class leader. Now, I'll tell you how we got there and how we developed the program in a few minutes. But I got to stop the bus for just a second, because otherwise we won't get these handouts printed, because I can't talk and operate a mouse at the same time. So just hold on for a second. It's like I can't do this, that whole thing. So give me just a second here. So if we were going to do something big like that, then you had to have a program that would match that. So it couldn't just be a bunch of workshops. How many of you have gone to a workshop before? How many of you ever read a book? How many of you ever listened to a tape or a CD or an MP3? I said tape the other day, and this young gal was like, tape? What's a tape? And then this is how somebody thought I was old. They were like, oh, this thing called an 8-track tape. I was like, whoa, buddy, no. Cassette for me, okay? So we've all listened to self-help or leadership programs, and how many days does it usually take for that information to go away? Okay, 1 for you. I hold on to it a little bit longer, but okay, 1. How long is it usually between 1 and what? It fades. 7 to 10. Have you ever gone to some great conference, you're like on fire, and then you come back to wherever you live or work or whatever, and within a month it's faded? How many of you ever experienced those opportunities and nothing changed from the opportunity? In other words, you went to it, you were all excited, and then within 2 months you were just doing stuff the same old way, right? That's most programs. So we knew we couldn't be that. We had to create a learning model that was different. We had to create a learning model that was unique. We had to create a learning model that would ensure that what you gained would stick. And so that's the real challenge of any of these kind of programs. How do you make sure that what you learn sticks? We had to take behavioral science into account. How many days does it take to establish a habit? Anybody know? 21 days to establish a habit. So this whole program is based on 21 days to establish a habit. The whole program. 21 days to establish a habit. And it's based on a blended learning model. So, you might learn by reading. You might learn by doing. I might learn by talking about it with you. Some of you might learn by thinking. So if we really want to have an effective learning experience, we need to provide the information in a blended learning approach. You're an educator. Your background is education. Blended learning, right? So some of you learn by doing, some of you learn by thinking, some of you learn by talking, some of you learn by hearing, some of you learn by reading. We need to provide information in a blended learning approach to give you a fighting chance to learn something. So take these two things into consideration. 21 days to establish a habit, blended learning. So this whole program is based on that. That's why it's 15 weeks. We're going to take 5 concepts, reinforce them 21 days at a time. New concept, 21 days. New concept, 21 days. So today is the first. Over the next 21 days, we'll reinforce what we talk about today. That's why if you haven't registered, we'll show you how. You have to register. Because we need an email. Now, if you don't have an email, we'll show you how you can come here and get information. But on Monday or Tuesday, because of the holiday, on Tuesday, everybody that has registered is going to get an email. And in that email, there's going to be a video. And then there's going to be some words. And there might be an exercise to reinforce the concept. So I took something in, and normally it goes away within 1 to 7 days. But instead, Ian's going to reinforce it within a couple days. And then we're going to reinforce it again. And we're going to reinforce it again. But we're not just going to reinforce it with video, and we're not just going to reinforce it with words. We're going to reinforce it with all the different learning models. And then on the 22nd day, what are we going to do? Get back together right here again. So we're going to leverage the best of face-to-face and technology. What's your name again? I'm sorry.
Bernadette.
To give Bernadette a fighting chance to actually change. Instead of giving her a bunch of information and then leaving it to herself to try to improve. How many say that makes sense? So that's what this is. Now, Bernadette, how much are you paying to participate in this program?
Volunteering, I'm just here.
So you're paying the same as Ron. And Ron, how much are you paying? How much are you paying to participate in this program?
Nothing.
0.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a municipality offering a program that's this comprehensive for free? Have you ever heard of anything like that? No, not with the kind of support I'm talking about, right? Where you're getting emails all the time and videos and training and information and face-to-face meetings and coaching sessions and all that. It doesn't cost you a penny. But unfortunately, young lady, you know that there's nothing free in life, right? You know that, right? Like right now, she's like, uh-oh, here it comes. What is he going to say to me now? Here's the only thing that we're asking in return. Go out and build a great place to live. So we're going to pour ourselves into you. We'll give you everything that we have. Everything that we've learned is I've done projects all over the world. Maybe you Googled me and you know we've done projects all over the world. The only thing I'm asking in return is you take what we teach you and go make the community a better place to live. You take what we teach you and you go lighten the burden of your fellow man. You take what we teach you and you go run a great business. You take what we teach you and you be a great employee. You take what we teach you and you be a great parent or a great spouse. That's how you pay back. Because you're getting it for free. It should cost you thousands and you're getting it for free. So the program and its uniquenesses. So those of you that have handouts, open up your notebooks. So when you guys go online and register, you're going to be able to print out all the materials that they already have. Who has an actual binder? You got your binder? Ron, you got your binder? Lift up your binder for me. So you're going to have to get your own binder, but you're going to get all the kind of stuff to put in your binder. It's all there, and I'll show you where to get it later. And you'll always want to bring your binder, because science says if I write it, if I read it, if I hear it, if I think it, I'm more likely to retain it. So we want you to bring your binders all the time. And if you don't bring your binder, when we do these things, you get fined. It's a toonie. From now on, moving forward, you don't bring your binder, it's $2. And if you don't have $2, I'll front you the $2, and then you have to pay me back. They don't call it a boot camp for nothing. And then we take the fine from each session, and we donate it to charity. And I always match whatever the fine is. Like last night, we donated like $50 to the SPCA, $60 to SPCA. Now, some people just donated to donate. And the time before that, it was the food bank, right? Can you print this? Can somebody go print this? This so everybody has handouts? So when you do it, there's a Word doc on there that says LBC. And the rest of them are files, so it's just the Word doc. So for those of you that do have handouts, let's open those up. For those of you that don't, we're going to work on getting you some. Those, if I would have had a chance, if I wanted to better understand, if I wanted to build a quality program, not only would we have to build a comprehensive learning model, but I would need to know about you. I can't just build an educational experience if I don't know about you. So some of you, like most recently Ron, when you registered or when you register, you're going to get an email. And in that email, it's going to ask you 3 questions, 3 very important questions. And they're questions that basically are saying, what do you want from this, right? Ron, it said, what do you want from this? And I won't reveal what you said, but Ron sent me back some very detailed stuff. Ian, I want da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Why do you think I'd ask that question? Why, before you were to come here, I'd want you to tell me what you want out of it? Why? Somebody has to talk.
Help you understand where our direction needs to go.
To make sure that this is not a waste of your time. So that through the 15 weeks, I'll revisit that. I'll look at the email you sent me. Okay, is Ron getting what Ron hoped he would get? Or are any of you getting what you hope you would get? To make sure it's a positive experience for you. Now, I know that there's some things I'd like to impart to you, but I got to make sure that the things you were expecting to get, you actually get. So if you haven't answered those 3 questions, or when you have an opportunity to answer those 3 questions, make sure you do. They help me. So that will give me a sense of where you're coming from. But now I'd like to give you a sense of where I'm coming from by telling you the assumptions I had about you as I was driving here. The kind of people I'd be hanging out with for 15 weeks. Fair enough? So let's jot these down, and we're printing some out for you, okay? And then you can jot them down. So my first assumption about you was that you were professionals. But I'm not a professional, Ian. Well, I don't care. My assumption was that you were a professional. But words are important, they have meaning, and sometimes what you think something means and what I think something means are 2 different things. So let's clarify what that means. What's a professional? Anybody, what's a professional? To you, what does that mean? What's a professional? Someone who is good at a chosen task. They're a professional. Okay, somebody else. What's a professional? So they're good at something. What else? Come on.
They're committed.
A professional has a level of commitment unlike others. They're not just going through the motions of things. Okay, what else is a professional?
Has vision.
Okay, they have a direction for their life at least. They're headed somewhere. Okay, what about this? Is a professional highly educated?
Not always.
Okay, not always. How about this? Have any of you met somebody who was highly educated but totally unprofessional? Has anybody ever met somebody like that? Absolutely, right? They got a bunch of fancy letters after their name, but they act like a clown. They're immature. They don't take themselves or anybody else seriously. Has anybody ever met somebody like that? Yep, some of you in business have. Some of you in the workplace have. So education in and of itself does not define a professional. On the other side, how many of you met somebody that has no education whatsoever is very professional? I know I have. So it's not about education. What else is a professional? What else? They believe. They believe in their own ability, they believe in the ability, or they might even just believe tomorrow can be better than yesterday. How about this? They take their own personal growth seriously. So not only do they take their job or the thing that they're doing seriously, they take their own growth seriously. They own it. They know that they're responsible for their growth. Well, all those words that we all just together described is what I thought of you. You say, but Ian, you don't know me. Well, I'm just telling you what I'm thinking of you, and until you prove me wrong, that's how I'm going to see you. Until you give me a reason to think otherwise, that's how I see you. So that was my first assumption. My second assumption. My second assumption is that you wanted to do something great. That the reason you showed up today is because you want to do something great. Not necessarily that you want to make $1 million. Not necessarily that you want to have 4 houses. Not necessarily that you want to drive a big Escalade. Maybe you do. But I was thinking great in terms of you wanted to do something great with your life. That this was 15 weeks of a bunch of people who wanted to do something great with their life hanging around together. And I guess the caveat was also this, that you wanted to do something great with your life for others. That this was 15 weeks of people hanging out together that wanted to do something great for themselves. They want to do something great for their friends. They want to do something great for their kids. They want to do something great for their community. And they want to do something great for people that weren't even born yet. That those were the kind of people I'd be hanging out with for 15 weeks. I have a 22-year-old. She actually works in the gas and oil industry. She works for Schlumberger and was just up here doing winter projects because she's a chemical engineer. So I got a 22-year-old, 10-year-old, 9-year-old, 6-year-old. Today, I could be with them. I don't have to be here. I could be with them. Today, you could be with your family, or you could be doing your thing. I'm assuming that we're all choosing to take time away from all of them, or our personal interests, because we want to do something great. Not halfway, not half you know what, great. Third, my third assumption. My third assumption is that you will actually try something that we talk about. So you could just write, try it or do it. This will be a total waste of time if all you do is come here every 3 weeks or watch the videos online or listen and read the emails and listen to the emails and don't try anything. There's an old expression. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. If you want to be better tomorrow than you were yesterday, something's going to have to change. Something's going to have to change. That's just the bottom line. So change means try. So I'm assuming you're going to try something, which means you're going to stumble. Sometime in the next 15 weeks, you're going to try something, it's not going to go very well. Sometime in the next 15 weeks, you're going to say something, and that's not going to go over so hot. Sometime you're going to try a new technique, and it's going to fail. But that's about trying and changing. So I'm assuming you're going to try. How many would say those 3 are reasonable assumptions? Okay, well, that's how I see you. I've never met you before, and yet that's how I see you. And if I have met you before, I'm not going to judge you on my previous experience. I'm just kidding. Thank goodness.
We're in our safe bubble.
That's right. We're in our safe bubble now. I'm just going to judge you based on that until you prove me wrong. Well, now you know where I'm coming from. Now you know my perspective. And when you fill out those 3 questions, I'll know yours. I give you my 3, you'll give me your 3, we'll have a deep understanding, and that will help me make sure that this is a profitable experience for you. All right, turn the page, quick. Quick. Let's talk about expectations. What can you expect from us? Well, you can expect a well thought through learning model. And my hope is from now on, when someone asks you to come to some kind of leadership thing, you say, well, what's the learning model? Because I don't want to waste my time. Why am I going to change? What support systems are in place to ensure? Well, it's the greatest speaker in the history of mankind. Well, that's great, but what kind of support tools are there afterwards? Because I know for me to change, behavioral science says 21 days. So tell me, what's the support system? Because if there isn't one, the likelihood of you changing is what? Minimal. Minimal at best. So demand that from people and demand those from learning experiences. So I won't go into it much more except to say, just a quick review. At the beginning of the 21 days, we meet face to face. Then over the 21 days, we reinforce things, mostly via technology, email, text message, and the like. In those emails, there'll be videos and words and maybe even an exercise. Halfway through the 21 days, we'll have what's called a coaching session. Now, we'll have to talk a little bit about that for here, but basically, it's live video streaming where I'm just available for an hour for you to ask me questions for an hour. Maybe you have a question about your work. Maybe you have a question about a project you're trying to do. Maybe you have a question about a relational issue. Maybe you have a question about a fundraiser. Maybe, I don't care what your question is. I'm there for an hour. Well, how do we ask the question? You email in your question. You chat in your question. You Twitter in your question. You Facebook in your question. You text in your question. And I'm there for an hour, just answering your question. The thought being that we introduced a concept, now you're trying it, and we've stopped the bus and said, okay, how's it going? And now you can ask a question. I mean, stop and think about it. Most of the time you go to a workshop or a seminar, you don't get to really ask that person some questions. Well, you're going to get to ask questions. And then on the 22nd day, we're here again. And we meet face to face. Does that make sense? Any questions about the learning model, how that works? Well, where do I find all that? That's on the learning portal, which I'll show some of you that haven't seen it yet later when we get done. So that learning portal, that's why you want to create a username and password. So you can go into that learning portal and access all the information. Like CP Services, we got 5 employees from CP Services. They couldn't be here today. Everybody say hi to James, the cameraman. Hi, James.
Hi, James.
And then James says, hi, I'm James. No. So James is recording this, and typically, once we kind of get the technology worked out, but typically, within an hour, you'll be able to view this on the internet. So if you weren't able to be here, don't worry. You can't get behind. To even make it easier for you, by Wednesday of next week, and in the future it'll be faster, but by Wednesday of next week, you'll be able to go to the municipal office and get it on a thumb drive. I wasn't able to go. Can I have one of the copies? You'll be able to take it home. So no one has an excuse. Couldn't be there? No problem. See it online. Don't have the internet? Go pick up the thing. Still can't do it. Come to Sequoia. You can do it right here. No excuse. If you want to learn, you have an opportunity to learn. In the future, you'll be able to get that the next day. So you would normally be able to get it tomorrow at the municipal office, right? So would you agree with me that you've never heard of something like that? That's pretty incredible, isn't it? So we're trying to do everything we possibly can to give people an opportunity to learn. But I can't learn for you. And I won't do it for you. And I certainly won't kiss your you-know-what. That's why bring your stuff. Leaders bring their stuff. Leaders are organized enough to bring their binder. Leaders are organized enough to get the information that they need. So in the future, once you have access to all the tools, bring them. If you can't come, no worries. That's why the program is, there'll be some people last time that never came. They never came to one session, ever. They did the whole thing in their pajamas on a Sunday morning because that suited their lifestyle. So that's the program. Now, if you want to know the science of it, here it is. When you get your handouts, it'll be on this page. This is the science behind it. Why this is important for you to know? So you learn how to change something. So that you could go into any community and affect change. So you could walk into an organization and affect change. So that you could change things. So if there's one thing that I'm committed to you learning by the time the 15 weeks is over, is how to be a change agent. Oh, good job. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Very, very good. Who else needs one? Anybody else? Cool. Very, very good. Okay, turn the page. Oh, no, don't turn the page yet. Sorry. What do we expect from you? Well, first of all, I expect you to give your best. I expect you to give your best. Give a great effort. Don't waste my time. Give a great effort. We expect you to do the assignments. There won't be a lot of assignments, but there will be some assignments. Some you will turn in, and some you will not. Let me be clear on something, though. Everyone in the room, at some point, will make a commitment. Everyone will be expected to make a commitment of at least one thing that you're going to get better at. And you will formally turn that commitment in to me. Now, no one else will see it but me and you. But you'll make a commitment. Ian, I want to get better at. And then you'll draw up a little action plan with my help and some dates and I'll get that and you'll get that. And then just me and you. Now, if you want to tell some other people, that's fine. But we have to be able to justify this program to people. We have to be able to say that 300 or 400 people got better at something. Wouldn't you say that's reasonable? If we're going to take all this time. So, at some point, within the first 4 or 5 weeks, you're going to be asked, what are you getting better at? Some people have already started to make their commitment in the other communities. One man said, I'm going to be a better dad. I don't spend enough time with my child. And he listed ways he was going to do that. One lady said, I'm going to stop being so shy and mouse-like at work. I get walked on every day. And so I'm going to change that about me. Another lady said, you know what? I'm in a relationship that's not good for me. It's not healthy for me. And I'm going to get out of that. Now, I don't know what your thing will be, and I'm not going to tell you what your thing should be. I just know this. Come on, man, let's pick out one thing. Everybody just pick out one thing. Can you imagine if 400 people all picked out one thing and worked on it for 15 weeks, and in the 16th week, we're better at it? Would you agree with me we'll have a better community? Would you agree with that? So that's the theory here. So my role is just to hold you accountable to that. Not to tell you what your one thing is, but once you tell me to say, okay, how we doing? So once you've told me, I'll send you a little note. How's that one thing coming? How's being more organized coming along? How's controlling your anger coming along? How's procrastination coming along? Are you following your plan? Because I know if you get better, then the work you do gets better. And when the work you do gets better, that improves other people's lives. And as other people's lives are better, the community gets better. Now, it's simplistic. I agree, it's quite simplistic, but it's quite effective. So, there was an old Italian philosopher, and he said, there's nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to attempt, and more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. Anytime you want to introduce new things, it's hard. Have you ever found that the world doesn't like to change? Have you ever found that? The world doesn't like to change. Who can tell me why people don't change easily? Why don't people change easily? Why don't you and I change easily? Is it because we don't try hard enough? No. What is it? Okay, comfort. But there's a scientific reason, a behavioral scientific reason. One is the 21-day thing, but there's another one. Anybody know? Some are scared. Did you know that most of your behaviors on a normal day are unconscious? 80%, write this down, 80% of your behavior every day is unconscious. You're just doing it. There's another word for it. It starts with an H. Anybody know what that word is? Habits. They're just habits. You just do them. The challenge with just doing habits is this. Are the habits you're doing the ones the times require? This is really important, so catch this. There's an old saying that says that the skills and abilities and competencies to win the battle behind me may not be the skills, abilities, and competencies to win the battle before me. When I was an entry-level supervisor, supervising 5 people, there were certain skills that I could utilize that would make me successful. But when I started supervising 100 people, I had to have different skills. And then when I jumped up to 750 people, I needed a whole different set of skills. And then when I got to 1,100 people, when I was managing and leading 1,100 people, it was completely different skills than the skills I needed to lead 5. Today, with offices on both sides of the border, with projects literally from here to Africa, it's a whole different set of skills that I need to be successful. And you want to know a funny thing? If I don't change in the next 5 months, I'm not going to do well. So this thing is ever evolving. The skills and abilities to win the battle behind me may not be the skills and abilities to win the battle before me. Does that make me bad? No, that just means what skills are the ones the times require. So write this in some white space anywhere. Are the leadership skills I'm using, write that, are the leadership skills I'm using, are the leadership skills I'm using, are the leadership skills I'm using the ones the times require? Are the leadership skills I'm using the ones the times require? Different times call for different leadership approaches. Different groups call for different leadership approaches. Different situations call for different leadership approaches. Now, did I say principles and values? No. Principles and values don't change, but your approach, your style might change. The great American business guru, or great business guru, not just American, worldwide business guru, Peter F. Drucker said, every couple hundred years in Western history, society rearranges itself. And the society the grandparents knew is completely different than the society the grandchildren know. He called it a time of transformation. Tell me if you think we're in one of those times. First of all, do you think, by show of hands, how many people think we're in a time of transformation in the world? Okay? Give me some things that indicate that to you. What would lead you to say we're in a time of transformation? I know I just stood up. Sorry about that. I'll sit back down. How's that? There we go. I know. Somebody tell me, make him work, right? Got to make him work. Got to make him work. Somebody tell me why you would raise your hand and say, oh yeah, we're in a time of transformation. Give me some indicators to that end. Okay, technology. Who's got this? So here I go. I got my phone. In a little while after we get done here, I'm going to FaceTime my daughter. Right? Hi. How's school? Great. Like some of us, some of our ages, we can't even fathom that, right? The thought that my 9-year-old doesn't know a time that she can't see me anywhere in the world in real time. She doesn't even know that. 10 years from now, she'll be like, Dad, can I teleport to you? Yeah, come on. It's okay now. Like, hey, what's up? What's happening? Okay, you better go back home. Everything that happened in Star Trek will eventually be a reality. Seriously. This is the tricorder, man. I mean, it's the same. But what has that done to us? So technology, but talk to me about how that's changed things, both good and bad. How has that changed things, both good and bad?
A lot easier to speak to somebody.
Okay, communication.
Different medias too. So.
But let me ask you a question, sir. Would you say people are more or less trusting than they've ever been in your lifetime? More or less trusting?
Less.
So, you and I can talk and communicate like never before, but we don't trust each other. How goofy is that? That doesn't make sense. Okay. So, there's a dynamic exchange of information, but there's no relationships being built. How about this one? Community. Today, community is a group of people that live near one another and share the buying and selling and consuming of goods together. That's what we call community. But how many of you would agree with me that's not a community? Just because I live near you and sell you something and you buy something, and just because I'm in proximity to you, doesn't mean we are a community. Even in small towns and small places. Okay, what else has technology done to us? When do we want things? Most of the young people in the room will not remember this song, but some of my generation will. Remember this song? I'm sailing away. Remember this song? Catch an open door. My man remembers that song. Sticks, right? Yeah. He was like this. He was like, dude, I remember that song. Yeah. It took him back, right? Well, that song was like, it's called Sticks. Come sail away. Come sail away. Come sail away. And they all had mullets, and they all looked exactly the same, and they were all these bands. REO Speedwagon and Journey and Styx. And I don't know if you heard, but they're all the same band. They were all the same guys. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
That's a lie. It's not true. But anyways, I know, you're like, wow, way gullible. I've got some tickets to sell you. But anyways, listen now. When I was a kid, and how old are you, Ron?
42 this summer.
Okay, so we were kind of the same generation, a little bit older than you. But so in 1984, when I was in high school, that song was the song. And I was driving down the road on a Saturday night at about 11:30 at night. And I was driving in my Camaro, but I told everybody it was a Firebird, you know. And I had my mullet blowing in the wind. What's up? How do you know that a man had a mullet when he was a kid? Does anybody know? If he's bald today. If he's bald today, he had a mullet. And you say, how do I know that? Because God looks down and says, if you can't take care of it, I'm taking it away. Right? So I had a mullet. But anyway, so I'm driving down the road. And that song comes on the radio now. Think about this. The song comes on the radio. It's 11:30 at night. Song comes on the radio. And I look over at you and I'm like, dude, I love that song. And you're all, yeah. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, right? Faculty. None of you guys know what I'm talking about. But we're all getting it. It was this really cool movie. Get it on Netflix. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But anyway. So we're driving down the road, and I say, I love that song, and you're like, I love that song, and we're like, we love that song, it's an awesome song, man. When could I get that song? 11:30, Saturday night, I'm driving out to a party out in the wilderness. We've all done it. Don't do it anymore, but we have done it. When could I get that song? Monday.
If it's not a long weekend.
If it's not a long weekend. And how many songs would I have to buy to get one song? I'd have to buy 13. There was this thing called an album. It was really big. It was about this big. Maybe you've never heard of it, but it was round. It was back there. It wasn't a CD. It was an album. And there was this record player. I mean, you know what I'm talking about? She's like, whatever. Anyways. But we know. At least you didn't look at me and say 8-track tape, right? That's good. I'm not that old. Now stop and think about this. I had to wait 3 days to get something I desperately wanted. Okay, now come with me to my little 9-year-old Nadia. She's 9. She just turned 9. So a number of months ago, I was in the little man cave home office at my house, and in comes Nadia, and she's a little sprightly little girl. She comes in, Sunday afternoon. Hey, Daddy. I'm like, hey, Nadia, what's up? She's like, can I talk to you? I'm like, yeah. Just move 3 feet over so I can see the game. Just move over slightly right there. She's like, Daddy, have you ever heard of Miley Cyrus? And I was like, yeah, don't be like her. And she's like, have you heard of her song, Ho Down, Low Down, whatever? If you have little kids, you know what I'm talking about. Some whatever, Ho Down, Low Down, whatever. I'm like, yeah, what's up? She's like, Daddy, I love that song. I love to dance to it. I love to sing it. I just love that song. I'm like, that's awesome. Why are you telling me? Oh, I just wanted to let you know I just bought that song. I was like, how did you buy that song? She's like, I bought that song on iTunes. I was like, you have an iTunes account? Oh, no, I used your iTunes account, Daddy. I was like, well, how do you know what the password is to my iTunes account? She's like, it's Nadia. I was like, well, how would you know that? And she went just like this. What else would it be? Now stop. Now, it's silly. 1984. A kid had to wait. And they couldn't get something right now. 2013, little Nadia, she's expecting things how quickly? We think we're going to be able to lead young people as we have in the past? That's not going to happen. Now, you say just young people, Ian? Oh, no. People. Banking. Most of us remember a day when our parents were scrambling on Friday afternoons to get to the bank. Because you know what, guys? If you didn't get to the bank by 5:01 on a Friday, you didn't get your money. And there was no other way to get your money. There was no ABM. There was no Interact. There was no emailing people money. There was none of that. You didn't get to the bank by 5 o'clock. Did you get money? You didn't get money. Today I can get money in 495,000 locations anywhere across the country. Because we're in a, write this down, a user-driven society. If I'm going to be a leader today, I've got to understand that things have changed fundamentally. All of you, how many of you under the age of 22, raise your hand? And none of you over here better raise your hand, okay? I know liars. Anybody under the age of 22, raise your hand. Okay, a few of you. Here's what none of you know. You never know a day when this would have happened. We're all watching TV. Ian, change the channel. Oh, dude. None of you know that day because you're used to this. What's that? Exactly. Some of you remember this. Some of you guys over here remember this. You remember that? I remember as a kid, I watched every game like this. Because I had to make sure I held the thing to make the TV work. What's your point, Ian? A leader understands how things have changed and then asks themselves, are the leadership approaches I'm using the ones that times require? There is no way in the world that you can possibly think that the skills and abilities to lead 25 years ago are going to be the same approaches to lead today, because we're in a user-driven society. Every institution that you interface with gives you a feeling, at least the feeling, that you have a say. You have control. Whether it's Canadian Idol, because you feel like you're picking the winner, or your Facebook page. Whether it's the banking system, or if, you know, truth be told, we could walk over to that computer over there. We could order a car. We could pick its color. We could pick its dashboard. We could pick all the little things, and it would be delivered here in 2 weeks. Some of us remember a day that whatever the dealer had on a lot, that's what you got. Unless you wanted to drive to Edmonton, and then you know what I mean? Whatever was just down the road, that's what you got, period. Color, size, whatever. It's a user-driven society. Why is it so important to recognize that as a leader? User-driven society. Why is that so important? Okay, but why? So you would be able to advance yourself. So why is it important for me to know that, though? What am I doing with that? That people want to have a say, that people want to be a part of the process, that people want to be involved, that people feel like they should be a contributor, that people will reject being told what to do. Why do I need to know that? Change in society. Why do I need to recognize that as a leader? Say it a little louder.
So that you can adapt your approach and how you deal with people.
That's right. So that I'm more aware of what people's expectations are. This leader's not going to work much anymore. Hey! Do what I told you to do! How many agree with me that ain't working no more? Now, you might not quit your job because you got bills to pay, but I bet you're going to do this. Oh, okay. Let's see how that rolls. A person can work 8 hours for you, or they can work 8 hours against you. If I better understand what the times require, I can adjust my style to meet others. Would you want to work for or with someone that was willing to adjust their style to yours? Yes or no? Not their principles and values. Not just kissing your behind all the time. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about would they adjust your approach, that kind of a thing, style. Today's society calls for different approaches, right? Somebody else, tell me how other things have changed. So we talked about technology, but notice we took technology and took it deep. So tell me how other things have changed. How have things changed? How have things changed? Na, 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 na. How have things changed? Well, you said less trusting. We're less trusting than we've ever been, at least in my lifetime. We don't trust. Now think what we don't trust. We don't trust the government, but throughout society and history, governments haven't been trusted. How many of you agree with me we don't trust leaders? Would you say you deeply trust leaders, just general leaders, or do you look at leaders like, I wonder what's going on there? How many would say it's the latter one? Yeah, you wonder, you question. Okay? Would you say that we're trusting of institutions? Would you agree with me that institutions of faith aren't trusted like they used to be? Even the most iconic charities aren't trusted like they used to be. Right? We see certain symbols and they used to say, oh, that's the gold standard, man. You can always trust them, and then you hear of some scandal. Oh, you can always count on them, and then you hear of some malfeasance of some kind. People are less trusting. So what does that mean for us as leaders? How does that impact us as leaders? Even if we're only leading a couple of people. What do you think? What do you think that does to us? Even in a small community, people are less trusting. It makes your job that much more harder. Now I really got to go out of my way to be trustworthy. See, here's another thing. Even in a community like this, there used to be a time where I only interacted with people who looked like me, smelled like me, ate what I ate, did what I did, went where I went, understood my world. There used to be a time that I only hung around those kind of people. So trust was a lot easier because we all had the same worldview. We all grew up in the same mindset, right? But how many would agree with me? Over the last 50 years, that's fundamentally changed. And even in a community where people, like every person you meet has the same last name, right? I don't know if you've had that happen here in Janvier, but I'm like, how many people can be from the same family? What the hell is going on? How many would agree with me? As we get more and more people from the outside, all of a sudden, things change. And we start wondering, and we start looking, and there's less trust. It's tough, man. So on one hand, I'm trying to get you to better understand change, but on the other hand, I'm trying to get you to start to think of the context. The word is context. What context am I operating in? What's my context? Like Ian does a project at the corner of Jane and Finch. Anybody ever heard that term? Jane and Finch? Where's Jane and Finch? Anybody know? Toronto. Highest murder rate in all of Canada for a period of time. Corner of Jane and Finch. Well, when I go do a project in Jane and Finch, do you think I need to take a little bit different approach than when I go do a project in Fort Chip? The essence is the same. Build relationships, build trust and the like, but maybe the approach is different. I got to know the context. When I walk into a boardroom on King Street in downtown Toronto or on the 25th floor of some financial institution in Edmonton, am I going to take a different approach than when I walk into some farmer's house in Pincher Creek? My approach might be different, but my principles and values are not going to change. The context that you're operating in. When you get really, really good at this, you know what you'll start to do? You'll start to do this. I wonder what it's gonna be. I wonder what the context is gonna be. Name me a person that did that. Give me in the name of a person that you know off the top of your head that had the ability to start to say, I wonder what's gonna be. Give you a hint. Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs started talking about, I wonder what's gonna be. It's an old one that I used to be in the venture capital business, and the guy that I was had a venture capital fund with, he said this: you can either create the wave or you can ride somebody else's wave. This guy, he created waves because he had the ability to not only understand the current context, but he had the ability to start predict what the next context was. Now, I'm not saying you'll get there. I don't know if I'll ever get there. But would you agree with me? I didn't give you any facts to explain how things have changed. I gave you goofy stories out of real life. So all you need to do is start looking at stories of life, and you can start to see how things have changed. It's about opening up your eyes, opening up your awareness, and start looking around at what the heck is going on. And then start saying to yourself, how does that relate to me? How does that relate to my job? How does that relate to Nexon and community development or whatever? How does that relate to the regional municipality? How does that relate in education? How does that relate to my future goals and dreams? You start looking around and paying attention. You start taking the blinders off and looking at the context that you're leading in as opposed to the content. The content of leadership has not changed for 2,000 years, and it will not change for another 2,000. Treat people with dignity and respect. Work hard. Give your best, and don't give less than you would expect someone else to give, right? All that's basic leadership. Be organized, have a plan, that kind of stuff. But the context that we operate in has changed. I'm not going to be able to lead Nadia the way I was led. Why are we so afraid of this thing called change? Why are we so afraid of this thing called change? Don't know what's coming. Okay, what else? Complacency. What else? Why else are we concerned and we don't like it? Which does everything stay the same?
Changes fast too, like technology.
Yeah, and I might not be able to catch up, right? Always something new. It's like, if they come out with like iPhone 6, sometime in the next 3 years, I'm chucking this thing. Right? Because how many of you try to keep up? You can't keep up. They're coming up with a new one every 6 months. You can't trade it in. You're stuck. Do I sound frustrated? Yes! 4S. How many of you know what I'm talking about? 4S, then 5. Like, what? Hey, can I get out of this phone? No, you're in it for the next 9 years. Yeah, but there'll be like 7 new ones. Tough! Okay, so rapid change. I don't like it. I want things to slow down. Just let me get in my comfort zone. Why is everything coming at me 100 miles an hour? Another reason that we don't like change is because it means work. It means some work. How about this? It could mean failure. How about this? We might have to admit we've been wrong. Change. But here's the crazy thing, guys. Progress and change are indelibly intertwined. There can be no progress without change. You said it earlier. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always... Which means if you want to be better, something's going to have to... But we hate it. But what if we didn't hate it? What if we embraced it? What if we could master it? What if all of a sudden I became good at change? What if it didn't freak me out anymore? What if I could see a skill that I needed and I could acquire it and I could change? What if when somebody pointed out a deficiency, I was like, no problems, I can fix that. What if I mastered change? What do you think you'd be able to do? What could you do if you could master this thing called change? What's that? Pretty much. Pretty much. You could acquire the new skill. You could take on the new challenge. So there's no safety and security. And this is to our those my age and above, and those, I won't look at anybody, exactly. And those younger than me. Listen to this. No safety and security and things staying the same. And yet we buy that lie in North America. In Canada, in the United States, we buy that lie. That let me just kill myself to get to a place where things stay the same. Let me work 25, 30 years so things can stay the same. Let me get to a place where I retire and things stay the same. There is no safety and security in that. None. Safety and security comes from my ability to adapt, my ability to overcome. That way, no matter what comes at me in life, I can roll with it. In San Francisco, they had a huge tragedy in the early 1900s, an earthquake. An earthquake that killed so many people that they stopped counting. That is the truth. They stopped counting. When the earthquake hit, the buildings were so poorly built that they just collapsed on people. If you go to San Francisco today, and you walk by buildings, you'll see what looks like huge, huge shock absorbers at the base of buildings. The lesson here is this. The buildings at the turn of the century were rigid. They didn't move. They couldn't shift and adjust. And so they collapsed, and thousands died. Today, when the ground shakes, it moves. It adapts. So one of the things I'm going to ask you for the next 3 weeks is, can you change? Can you change? Are you adaptable? Are you moldable? Not your principles and values. Because if you're not, you're going to have a challenge. Because it's not if the ground shakes. How many of you know in life it's not if the ground shakes? It's when the ground shakes. will you be able to make it? How many of us know somebody that when the ground shook in their life, they didn't make it? Whether it was drugs, whether it was alcohol, whether it was whatever, when the ground shook, it took them out. So we are not going to be that. Neither are our kids, neither is our community. We're going to learn to be adaptable, which means we got to learn how to change. Change to what, Ian? Let me read you some descriptors of what I think is today's leader. So we keep on talking about how things have changed. We keep on talking about you can't use the leadership styles of the past. So what's the leadership styles we're going to be learning for the next 15 weeks? Well, let me give you some descriptions. What kind of leaders are most effective in these changing times? Leaders that have the ability to marshal human capital. Okay, I got to define that because maybe not, words are important. We don't always put the same meaning to them, so we got to unpack them. Human capital. What do you think that means? Human capital. What's human capital? Human capital. What is it? Human capital. There's financial capital, right? What's that? Money. Money or gold or a resource. Financial capital. What else? There's natural capital. That could be a commodity. That could be the oil sands. That could be a lot of things. Trees, capital. So then what's human capital? What's human capital?
Inventory of people.
Sure. And probably the assets that people possess, right? So one form of human capital, write this down. One form of human capital is love. Love is a form of human capital. How about this? Creativity is a form of human capital. Smarts is a form of human capital. Sweat is a form of human capital. Compassion, form of human capital. Empathy, form of human capital. How about this one? Passion, form of human capital. Anger, form of human capital. So what's your point, Ian? Today's leader isn't about authority. Today's leader is about getting the best of your love, your passion, your energy, your enthusiasm, and moving it towards that goal over there. And they probably don't do it with authority. They probably don't do it by intimidation. They probably don't do it by screaming. They probably do it through a trusting relationship. That's how you marshal human capital today. That doesn't mean every once in a while they're not stern and assertive and direct. We want people to be direct today. We don't want people to beat around the bush. So today's leader has the ability to marshal human capital. Not demand human capital, not bark human capital, not intimidate human capital, not manipulate human capital, marshal human capital. Today's leader has the ability to build partnerships and consensus. They have the ability to inspire and move others towards a shared goal. They bring people together. They don't divide people. Today's leader can provide direction when others don't know what to do. Today's leaders are more about influence that comes from passion and vision. Today's leaders pay attention to trends so they can kind of predict what might be instead of reacting to what has been. Today's leaders realize that the world is flat. How many of you agree with me, by show of hands, that you don't care about anybody's title? How many say you don't care about anybody's title? We don't care about people's title anymore. We're not intimidated. Like, seriously, if the PM, the Prime Minister himself walked in the door, we'd be like this. What's up, dude? Whereas it used to be, we'd be like this. I mean, it used to be, we'd be like, well. But now we'd be just like, yeah, what up? How you doing, man? Because the world is flattened. Now, depending on how you feel about it, it might be a little different reaction. But there was a day in our father's or mother's time, or their fathers and mother's time, that if someone of that level of authority walked in, whether you liked him or not, there was a certain decorum. That's gone. So your title won't get you respect anymore. Fact is, your title might just get you disrespect because of the way we view leaders. Today's leader has the ability to facilitate a collective vision. Somehow today's leader is able to get all of you to feel like you're building the direction we're going in. They can get buy-in. And you feel like the best of them make you feel like it was your thing. The best of them, you don't even know that they did the stuff they did to help you get where you went. Has anybody ever had a leader like that? Yeah, great leaders. And then finally, today's leader is authentic, honest, direct, and they genuinely care about others, and they put themselves, their needs, behind the needs of their followers. How many of you are sick of leaders that are using their leadership position for advantage? How many of you say you're sick of that? Done. You're done with that. And so is most of society. So that's the leader I think. So here's the dilemma for you. Watch this. So here you are. Even if you're a young person, you've got some kind of leadership style. Now either you learned it in seminars or it just came to be. You got a way you do things. Then the world went like this. Woo! Change. Funky, funky change. All went on at the same time. Transformation. Then there was a whole new leadership approach that had to be learned. But you're having a tough time getting from here to there because 80% of your behavior is unconscious. And it takes 21 days of sustained effort to change. So the likelihood of me changing is what? Minimal. There's only one problem. The skills and abilities that I'm using probably isn't going to work today. Not because I'm bad. Not because I'm not smart. Just because the world went schwang. And I don't know how to change. And that's our dilemma. That's most people in today's society's dilemma. And for many of them, they don't even know what happened. They just know they're frustrated and can't figure out how to get it done today. When they were used to be able to get it done. That's where we're at. So, we got to learn how to change. Well, Ian, why is this first 3 weeks called Ignite the Fire? That was kind of like really ridiculous. That's kind of a dumb name. Well, I don't appreciate that because I came up with that name. So that hurt my feelings. I just want you to know. But there's a real reason that it's called Ignite the Fire. There's a physical law of motion called inertia. Has anybody ever heard that term, inertia? What's the physical law of motion inertia say? Anybody know? Physical law of motion, inertia. Go ahead. No, go ahead. That's right. If I took this and its wheels were unlocked and I threw it across, it would probably do what? Stay straight. Or whatever motion it was on, it would stay on that trajectory, right? It also says this, that a body at rest tends to stay there. Inertia. Now watch this. Would you agree with me that things that are in place tend to stay in place, yes or no? Okay. Would you agree with me that communities have inertia? Things tend to stay the same. Would you agree with me that people have inertia? People tend to stay the same. If we want to be better tomorrow than we were yesterday, something has to, and yet there's inertia in play. There's a physical law of motion working against us. 80% of our behavior is unconscious, 21 days to establish a habit, and then finally, inertia. So we have to overcome those three things if we want to take on the leadership approaches the times require. So the reason that the first 3 weeks is called Ignite the Fire is from the space shuttle down in the States. When the space shuttle takes off, about 87 to 93% of its energy has to be expended to overcome inertia. What about when you want to initiate change in Janvier? How much energy is going to have to be expended right away? 87 to 93%. When you want to initiate change in a school board, 87 and 93%. When you want to initiate change within an organization like the Regional Municipality of Wood Buffalo, 87 and 93%. 110. We got that on film. Anyways, listen now, and this is really important. That's why people quit. That's why people quit. That's why when we said, we're going to change the world, nobody came to the meeting. After the third meeting, nobody came. And it was just me and you. And we were like, are we the only fools at the meeting? Yeah. This sucks. Can't believe nobody wants to change. Well, what did you think was going to happen? Didn't you realize that it was going to take 87 and 93% of your energy to overcome inertia? The world doesn't want to change. Are you kidding me? The drug dealer doesn't want to give up his gig, man. He's got a smooth gig rolling. He doesn't want to give up his gig. And how many of you know you're not going to be able to easily move him down the road for a lot of reasons? How many of you know what I'm talking about? That's inertia. I don't know, it's just what we do around here. I don't know, it's just what we do around here. So, I got to give you some insight. We've got to give you some insight. Give you a fighting chance to change. Now, the beautiful thing about a 3-week time block is I don't have to talk about it today. on Tuesday morning, not Monday because it's a holiday, Tuesday morning, everybody that we have your email, which means as long as you get it to me before Tuesday, you're going to get an email. And in that email, I'm going to walk you through a process for changing. It's right here. This process for changing. It's called a change continuum. I'm going to walk you through a process for changing. Process for changing. Okay? Why is this important? It's important so from now on, when you see a skill you want to acquire, you have a process for acquiring it. From now on, when someone says, you're not so good at that, you're able to say, no problems, let me get better at it. How many of you, for most of your life, you've tried to change? We're not going to try to change anymore. We're going to train. Training implies focus. Training implies steps. Training implies goal. Training implies a process. You're going to train. And you're going to make a part of the 80% of your unconscious behavior a change model so you can change. Well, I don't particularly care for your little change model, Ian. Well, you know what? I don't care. Kiss my you-know-what. Because you don't have to use my change model, but you need to have one. In changing times of transformation, don't you think it's smart to have a change model? So you can say, I don't like yours. I don't care if you like mine. That's cool. Just go get one. Just get a change model. Well, how would I do that? Go to the University of Google. Have you ever heard of it? Or go to the University of Yahoo. Or go to the University of Ask Jeeves. Do they even have that anymore? Do they? That's our era, for sure.
That was last year.
That was last year, that's right. So listen, if you don't like the change model we laid down for you, cool, good with that. But go get one. Go to the University of Google and type in effective change processes. You will get 495,000 responses in 1.29 seconds. And if you're on ExploreNet, you'll get it in 7.3 seconds. But then find one that fits you, that's comfortable for you. So from now on, when the world goes schwang, you can change. You said it best when you said, if I could change, there would be just about nothing I couldn't do. That's why I need you to put it in your toolkit. On Tuesday morning, you'll get that. Okay, now I want you to do something. We're doing good on time. I want you to write down the names of 3 people that if you change something in your life today, their life would be better. Write down the name of 3 people that if you change something about you, not your life would be better, their life would be better. Could be a parent, could be a child, could be a spouse, could be a coworker, could be yourself. Write down the names of 3 people whose lives would be better if you changed. Whose life would be better if you changed? Would it be a spouse? Would it be a friend? Would it be a coworker? And if you're watching this via the internet, you write it down too. You're in your pajamas. And you know what? Don't wear those anymore. Because this is a two-way thing, and we don't want to look at that. We got a screen right there. You can't see it, but right? We can see them right now. I said that one time, and a lady emailed me back, how dare you look at my pajamas? It's like, really? Really? 3 names. Okay, somebody tell me why I'm asking you to write down those 3 names. What's the point? Why am I asking you to write down 3 names of people whose lives would be better? Yes?
So will it be willingness to try and change for them?
There you go. So if you don't want to change for you,
Change for them.
right. Very wise. What's your name again?
Candace,
Great wisdom, Candace. Great wisdom.
I told my daughter that last night.
Did you? What did you tell her?
I told her, I said, don't change for me. Me, her dad, and her aunt, we all sat her down. And we said, don't change for us in general, change for yourself because you have a lot of potential.
And if a person sometimes isn't motivated by changing for themselves, you might be motivated by changing for someone else. So I'm giving you both, right? I'm giving you both. Change for you. But if that's not enough, because I have met some people that they could give a rip about themselves. But as soon as you say, yeah, but change in your daughter's life would be less stressful, they go, oh, you know what, you're right. Or, gosh, you know that person that deeply loves you so much? If you just changed, their existence would be a lot happier. Oh, So I don't care what the motivator is. But the reason I'm having you write down the 3 names is because leaders clearly understand the impact of their actions and words. Leaders clearly understand the burden of leadership. I remember many a night going home when I was in charge of those 1,100 people, and I would cry. Well, that's not very manly. Well, let's go out inside in the parking lot and find out how manly I am. Because I'll tell you right now, I could take most of you. Although the big guy, I don't know if I could take. He's pretty big. So what's my point? My point is that I used to think this to myself. Those 1,100 people's livelihood is in my hands. If I do a great job, they'll make more money. And if they make more money, maybe they'll move from their trailer to an apartment, or from their apartment to a house. Or maybe they'll be able to buy their kid another gift. When the kid is screaming at Walmart, buy this, and the dad can't because he just doesn't have the money. Now, on the other hand, if I did a poor job as a leader, I might have to lay him off. And that weighed on me. That's the burden of leadership. So leaders understand that other people's lives are in their hands. So that's the final reason I want you to write those names down. Because leadership understands that on the other side of their decisions, on the other side of their thoughts, on the other side of their words, on the other side of their actions is people's lives. How many of you have met leaders that don't get that? We see it all the time, man. And I'm sorry. As soon as you put on the mantle, they call it, the mantle of leadership, it's not about me anymore. It's about everybody else. Not what do I get, but what am I going to have to give to be a leader? So 3 names. Those are the 3 names I'm going to have you keep in the forefront of your mind because they are journeying with you as well. They're rooting for you to get better. They're saying, come on, get better because I know my life's going to be better if you get better. All right, turn the page. Now, we got a couple last things to do and then we're going to be done. There's a couple of assignments. Let me tell you how it's going to roll out the next couple weeks. On Tuesday, you're going to get that change continuum, right? And then the next week, there's going to be an assignment. And the assignment that I'm going to give you is as a history survey. So you're going to explore history. But it's your history you're going to explore. See, I call it looking back to move forward. Looking back to move forward. And regardless of your age in the room, somebody had an influence on you. Teacher, parent, uncle, aunt, life circumstances, tragedy, victory. People and things and circumstances influenced you. Before we can talk about growing you as a leader, we got to figure out how you got to be what you are now. And the goods and bads of that. Some of you that are a little bit older will appreciate this. I will never be like my dad. And then one day you're like, holy crap, I'm just like my dad. How'd that happen? Especially negative. I will never be like that. I hate when he does that to me. And then like 40 years later or 30 years later, you're like, la, la, la. And then you walk away from that conversation and you're like, crap, I was just like my dad. I did that with Nia the other day, my little Nia. I did something I swore I'd never do. So it doesn't necessarily, I was influenced positively. I can be influenced negatively. I think it's important before we begin this 15-week journey that we unpack that stuff. Last night, in the Fort McMurray session, a couple people relayed their leadership history survey. Not the details, but what it did to them. And they said, very emotional experience. So all of you will have different reactions. It's 12 questions. Now, some of you won't have the time to sit down and fill it out. That's fine. I'm not asking you to necessarily. I am at minimum asking you to contemplate the questions. And because there's 12, just take a couple a day. What does it mean, Ian? Well, in our coaching session, I'll relay to you what it means or what it could mean. So that's not next week. That's the following week. Next week, change continuum, process for change. Let you think that through. Listen to it. Talk about it. Share it so you get it in your heart. Then, leadership history survey. In addition to those exercises, I want you to start to do an inventory. Use the word inventory. I want you to start doing inventory of who you are. If you were Bernadette, right? Bernadette, if you were going to go on a trip, would you do an inventory? Like if you were going to go on a long trip, wouldn't you look in your car and see what kind of stuff you have and get your sleeping bag or your camping bag or what? You would do an inventory, would you? You would look at all the stuff you have. There was a little young lady running around earlier, right? She was just here and she was climbing. Remember that little girl? How many agree with me when kids are this high, they believe in everything? Don't they? Boogeyman, Santa Claus, the whole program, right? They get it, the whole deal. She's a beautiful little girl running around. Would you agree with me, in most instances, by the time kids get to be about this high, they don't believe as much anymore? Isn't that sad? When they were this high, I'm going to be a fireman, I'm going to be an astronaut, I'm going to be whatever. By the time they get to be about this high, I ain't going to be nothing. Sadly, right? Not all the time, but sometimes. What happens? Seriously, what happens? How can they go from all of that belief and I can be and I can do and I can achieve to I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I don't know if I can be. Tell me what happens. What's that? And why? Why do they lose belief?
Some learn.
Yeah, some learn. They learn there's no Santa Claus. No Santa Claus, what the heck? No tooth fairy. All of a sudden, all this stuff we tell them is real, they learn it is not. How about this? They take a dream or a hope and they share it with somebody in school and those people laugh. Or maybe, how about this? They take love and give it to another human being and that love gets trashed right in front of their faces. Or the two people they love most in life don't even live in the same house no more. Would you agree with me that all of those things start to beat it out? I don't know any other way to describe it, but for some reason the world beats belief out of people. You got to fight to even hold on to it. So before we can go on this journey, as corny as it may sound, I got to remind you who you are. Now me, every one of you in this room is smarter than me. I promise you that. Because when I took the test in school, they said I was developmentally delayed. If the term had been around back then, they would have said I was autistic. Developmentally delayed. How many of you have ever seen this short little bus? You ever seen the short little bus? That was the bus I took to school every day. Me and 4 kids with helmets on that bus every day. That's a true story. And I was like, where's my helmet? How come I don't get a helmet? Every day. I was in every special class. I had every letter you could have after a name. SEH. Severely emotionally handicapped. That's what they said I was. So I know every one of you in this room is definitely smarter than me. I never went to college or university. Couldn't read till I was 17, 16, 17 years old in any meaningful way. So I know you're smarter than me. And yet, there's no computer in the world that can touch my brain. There is no computer on this earth that can touch my brain. I come from the species that I do not have wings, I can fly. I come from the species that made the pyramids. I come from the species that made it to the moon and back. And so did all of you. But do you believe that? How many would agree with me? Nothing great can happen without the seeds of belief. How many would agree with that? We can't come up with an innovative new idea to transform Janvier unless people believe it, unless you believe it. We can't change another human being or change a department or change a business unless we believe it. So somebody's got to be the believer. Somebody's got to be the believer. We got enough pessimists, but who's going to be the believer? Terry Fox believed that tomorrow could be better than yesterday. Nelson Mandela believed that tomorrow could be better than yesterday. Mahatma Gandhi believed tomorrow could be better than yesterday. And I bet you all know somebody in your life that believes tomorrow can be better than yesterday. Maybe they even believed it about you. But what do you believe? So I want to give you a little bit of science. I want to remind you of what you have, an inventory. Let's do an inventory of you as we begin this 15-week journey of you being a great leader. So look at this. Are you blind? Now, tragically, we do know some people that don't have sight, tragically. But for those of us that have the capacity to see, we have 100 million receptors in our eyes. 100 million receptors that give us the ability to see an eagle fly across the sky, or see a cloud, or see a child laughing at play, or you know what? Or see the look of love back at us. Or how about this? We can see injustice. We can see pain. We can see hurting. We can see. Now the question is whether we can see or not. It's what we do with that. How about this? Hear. Most of us, it seems, in the room have the capacity to hear, and tragically, there are those that cannot. But for those of us that have the gift of hearing, there are 24,000 fibers that vibrate in our ears. And somehow, when there's a sound, our body can take the sound, the fibers vibrate, and turn it into meaning. How is that even possible? What can we do with our ears? Well, we can hear the wind through the trees. We can hear a brook in the sound of water. How about this? We can hear someone say, I love you. How about this? We can hear somebody cry out for help. We can hear someone who's despondent, feeling down. How about our voices? There's no other animal on the planet that can do what their sounds like we can do. From what I can tell, all of you have the capacity to speak in this room. My son doesn't speak. He's 6. His name is Kian. He doesn't speak. He has a thing called autism, and he doesn't talk. You know how frustrating it is to be a guy that can talk like most people can't, and have a little boy that can't look at you and say, I love you, Daddy. That's tough. But for us, we can speak. And what can we do? Well, we can lift up the quitter. What could we do? We can encourage the downtrodden. What could we do? Say a kind word. What could we do? Say, I love you. Or we could do this, make a flippant remark and cut somebody with our words. You know what we could do? We could talk behind somebody's back and gossip about them and ruin their reputation in the community when it's not even true. What do we do with the power that no other animal has on the planet? Take an inventory of who you are. Now, how about your skin? We don't really take much thought of it, but there's no gold in the world that's protected as well as our skin protects us. Millions of little sensories, and the heat and the pain and the cold they can sense. It protects us. How about our bones and our muscles and our nerve endings? Miles of nerves that we have, 200 and some odd bones and 400 muscles. And we don't have to think, it just moves like no other robot could move. We're not like a tree stuck to be battered by the wind. No, we can move and we can run and we can jump, most of us. How about that brain? 3 pounds of flesh between our ears. Did you know that everything we've ever heard, everything we've ever seen, everything we've ever experienced is there? And all we got to do is bring it forward. It's amazing to me. No computer in the world can touch your brain or mine. How about this one? How about that thing in our chest? You know it beats like 1 billion times in a lifetime? There is no carburetor. There is no piece of machinery at any of these camps or any of these sites that's as sophisticated as that thing in our chest. And you know what? We abuse it. We trash it. And yet, without even thinking, man. Now look, young lady, I don't care what your mama said. I don't care what the coach said. I don't care what the teacher said. I don't care what the little voice in your head says. You're a rare and unique creature. 70 billion people have lived on this planet, and there's nobody like you. There's never been anybody like you, and there'll never be anybody like you. That's a scientific fact. And I don't care what any of you think of yourselves. I'm telling you what science says about you. All of you in this room probably more talented and smarter than me. And yet, I'm a rare and unique creature with incredible talent and ability. I think the day the leader comes to that realization is the day that they really are equipped to lead. Not because they say, well, look at how great I am. But they say, look at how great you are. Damn, dude, you got something to offer. Man, lady, you got something to give. Look, you got some talent. Let's bring that out. Let's make that happen. Now, that doesn't mean it's always roses and lollipops, because sometimes it's this. Hey, look, man, you got talent. Don't be wasting it. Get it up and get it moving. So I'm sometimes the boss method of motivation, for sure. But the expectation is that you're a rare and unique creature with incredible talent and ability. In some white space, I want you to write 70 billion. 70, comma, 000, comma, 000, comma, 000. That's 70 billion. 70, comma, 000, comma, 000, comma, 000. 70 billion. Underneath that, I want you to write the number 1. Who can tell me what the 70 billion represents? What's that? Yeah. You're so sharp, dude. 70 billion people have lived on the planet. That's what science says. And you know what, young lady, science says? There's never been anybody like you. Out of 70 billion people, dude, there ain't ever been nobody like you. Your DNA, your fingerprints, your hair fibers, nobody's ever been like you. And nobody will ever be like you. If there was 70 billion of this watch and one that was special, handcrafted and handmade, how much would the special one be worth? How much would the special one be worth? Priceless? That's you. The challenge is from here to here, we don't feel like that much. But if you want tomorrow to be better than yesterday, if you want to be an agent of change, you got to walk with that. You got to take inventory routinely. I got talent, I got ability, I have something to offer. Now, my talent's not yours and yours is not mine. And mine is not better or worse than yours, but I got something. How many of you know people that have come to a place where they don't believe they got nothing? How many of you know somebody like that? And they could even be successful people. But they don't believe they got nothing. And as soon as you stop believing you got something, then you don't believe tomorrow can be better than yesterday. Leaders in today's day and age who have the capacity to believe they can be better tomorrow than yesterday and believe the situation can be better tomorrow than it was yesterday will have followers flock around them. Because they ooze hope. They ooze it. It's just fun to be around. They're just hopeful in their nature. All right. I want you to go to the last page and then we're done. The last page. Not today. Not even anytime soon. But this is one of those things you will turn in. The commitment you will turn in, and this you will turn in. I call them life's 5 most urgent questions. I think it's what leaders have to be thinking about all the time in today's day and age. Somebody read the first one, if you would, please. Somebody read the one. Number 1. What will be your greatest contribution to your family? Why is your why are Nia, Nadia, Kian, Cassie, and Gina, that's what's on my bracelet right here, IGNNK. Why are IGNNKK better to have me as daddy or husband? What will be my greatest contribution to that family? Well, I put bread on the table. That ain't enough. Well, I pay the taxes. Not enough. Any monkey could do that. Not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's just standard, dude. What's the next level? Okay, somebody read the next one.
What will be your greatest contributions to those you serve?
Yeah. In the what's in it for me society, what are you going to give? Why are the people around you better off? Because you're serving them. All right, somebody read the next one. All of us lead somebody. Kids, ourselves, we all lead somebody. Why are those followers better? Because you're the leader. What do you bring to them? How do you enhance their life? What value do you possess that you offer them that exponentially impacts them? All right? Somebody else. Next one. Number 4. In the you're lucky to have me working for you society, you're lucky to have me on your team society, why don't we flip that and say, you know what? This place is going to be better off because I was around. And whether I was around for a month or I was around for 30 years, it's going to be better. Would you like to work with somebody like that? You probably would. You probably would. All right, somebody read the last one.
What will be your greatest contribution to your community?
In this era where we expect everyone else to do for us, what's going to be my contribution to the town? What's going to be my contribution to the neighborhood? What's going to be my contribution to the people that ain't even born yet? You know, I don't know what it was, but somewhere in the past, it hit me. I will attack the doing of good deeds with an energy and enthusiasm rarely known to man. Rarely known to man. You know, my kids have to say that every morning. How many of you know that would suck to live with me? If you called Nia right now, she'd go like this. We will attack the doing of good deeds with an energy and enthusiasm rarely known to man. Come on, can we go to school now? And yet, today, I talked to her, and she's trying to raise up food for the animal shelter. She's going to gather all kinds of dog food and cat food for the animal shelter. And I said, why do you do that? You know why, Dad. Because we have to attack the doing of good deeds. Okay, how about you? Why is this society going to be better because of you? Because you're a great listener? Or you made it a point that every person you met, you had a kind word? Or maybe it was just that you took $5 a week every year. And that $250 a year you took to the school and you gave to some kid and started an RESP. It was only $5 a week, but when you added it up 50 weeks, it was $250. Or was it because you did take in all the stray cats and you just cared for them because you loved animals? Or was it just you made it a point around town that when you saw garbage, you picked it up? It doesn't have to be big. You don't have to be Terry Fox. Come on, man. We ain't going to change the whole world here, okay? Let's be clear. Let's be really, really clear. We are not changing the world here. We're not going to solve global warming. We're not taking care of the Middle East crisis during this program. You guys all know that, right? However, all of us will commit to handling our corner of the world. I'll handle my corner. You handle your corner. You handle your corner. You handle your corner. And the cumulative effect of all of us handling our corner will be a better world. Can you get your head around that? Can you get your heart around that? Leaders get that. These questions, eventually, you will turn in. Now, they'll just be between me and you. What do you notice as we wrap up? What do you notice about those questions? And they're all about you doing what? For yourself? Everybody but yourself. Leadership is about me giving, not me getting. What else do you notice about them? What else do you notice about them? They are tough. They ain't easy because leadership ain't easy. They are tough. What else do you notice about them? What else do you notice about them? Are they proactive or reactive? In other words, do they project or do they react to what's going on? They project, don't they? They say, I will. My greatest contribution will be. All behavioral scientists tell us that greatest performance comes when someone has set some kind of goal, some kind of lighthouse that they can point to, some kind of direction for themselves. And whether that comes from a faith or a belief in something bigger than themselves, or whether that comes from a writing of goals or a vision statement, there's a lot of different techniques that you could use. But everything says, both academically and experientially, that when a person has someone they're headed, they usually do better. Life's 5 most urgent questions could be that. This is what I will do for my family. This is what I will do for my community. This is what I will do for my organization. What else do you take from those questions? Or what else do you think from those questions? Yeah, they're really deep. They are really deep. And that's why you can't answer them off the top of your head. I think, and I could be wrong, but I believe that today's leader has these kind of questions in the forefront of their mind. They're thinking about them all the time. And I think it's because followers long for leaders who will have these things in the forefront of their mind. Today's leader realizes what the times require, and the times require leaders that are thinking in these terms. And if you're the kind of leader that walks the thinking of these terms out in tangible action, you won't have any problem getting followers. People will give you permission to lead them like you wouldn't believe. And that's a key. People giving you permission to lead them. Okay. All right, quickly, somebody tell me something you're taking away from today, because we're done. So somebody tell me something you're taking away from today. What are you taking away from our time together, our hour and 45 minutes? Somebody tell me something you're taking away from our time together.
The confidence that, after today, that you're not just leaving us. You're going to be around to help.
And you're going to get tired of it being around to help, right? You're going to be like, if I get one more video from the chubby brown man, I will go crazy. But you can take confidence to know I ain't going nowhere. And that's the thing, guys. That's why it's called a boot camp. I mean, it's not like I'm making you do push-ups, but I'm going to be here. Which means when you commit to something, I'm going to follow up on those commitments. Now, let's be honest. 400 people in the program. So when you send me an email, it might be a couple days. But I read every single one myself. Which means it does take me some time to get to you. Okay? Now, every once in a while, I'll catch it on my iPhone I can answer right away, but other times there's, like right now, there's about 130 I got to go through this weekend where I got to read it and I got to respond. I got to read it because I want to read it, not just, so it might take me some time, but I'll be there with you. Okay, somebody else, something you're taking away from today.
I've always wanted to change in my life, but I didn't really have somebody there to kind of be my supporter. So that's good to have.
And I bet you, young lady, I'm just going to guess that you, me, friends, and all of a sudden some new friends you met today, I think we'll all be walking with you, right? Who agrees with me? We're all going to be walking with you. And you're going to be walking with them. That's the other thing, guys. This isn't a sage on the stage. This isn't like I'm some kind of guru. I'm journeying just like you, okay? I got issues. I got challenges. There's probably some things you're a heck of a lot better at than I am. So you're going to teach me, and I'm going to teach you. And in a couple of weeks, I'll share with you my commitment. You'll hold me accountable, and we'll just take this journey together. There are some things that I have figured out, and we've manifested that in some really cool leadership projects around the world. But I guarantee you, there's some things you're going to teach me because I have deficiencies. So we'll just do it together, right? Anybody else? Something you're taking away from today? Anybody? Can't be shy. Why do I ask the question? Why am I asking the question? To see how good I did? Look, trust me, I don't need you to tell me how good I did because I know I did good. You don't have to worry about that. Because I'm an arrogant jerk. Because I am. But I ask the question not to validate myself. I ask the question so that you start getting intentional about learning. Start to think about, what do I want to learn? That's why the first exercise is answer those 3 questions. So when you start coming here, you're coming with, what do I got to get better at? So we're intentional in our learning, It's like you said a moment ago. If I could learn how to change, man, there'd be a lot of stuff I can do and probably very little I couldn't. So I want you to get aggressive about that and intentional about that and urgent about that. So you're saying to yourself, from whatever the learning experience is, not just with me, but anyone, you're saying, I'm coming here to learn blank, to make sure that by the time you leave, you've learned blank. At the end of today or at the end of any day, what did I learn today? What did I learn from this experience? What did I learn from this failure? Whatever. Okay, so on Tuesday morning, you're going to get an email. If you have not signed up, if you have not created your username and password, let me write down where you can go to do that. So write it down. So if you haven't, how do I want to do this? Yes. So the first step is applying. But don't worry about it. You'll get accepted. So go to rmwbleaders.ca. rmwbleaders.ca. In the middle, you'll see kind of a gray box. And it'll say apply, click here to apply. Click that. Put in the application. When I get your application, I'll send you an email. And it'll say you have been accepted. Follow those steps. That's where you'll see the orientation video. That's where you create your username and password. And you'll get into the learning portal. And that will ensure we have your email, so on Tuesday morning you will get that email. Well, Ian, now that I've come, I realize this isn't going to suck, so I want other friends to be able to participate. Can they? That was supposed to be funny. But anyways, maybe you really did think it was going to suck. That makes me feel bad. But anyways, yes, just have them do the same thing I just explained to you. It's really, really important, though, that we convey to people, it isn't just come and hang for one time and then don't come back. It's a 15-week journey. Now, how you do the 15 weeks is up to you. Do it on your own, do it here. You can't get behind. But they have to kind of know that it's not just one workshop, that it is a series of activities. Does that make sense? Which, I bet you some of you, if you were being honest, were like, I didn't know that. Right? You might have, maybe no one told you that. I don't know. But you got to explain it to them so they better understand. And that orientation video is only about 18 minutes. It'll explain everything, how it all works. We talked about some of it today. That's the way to register. That's the way to get your username and password created and the like. Normally, in the future, after today, This film would be posted online in about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Or the next day, it would be at the regional municipality office. This time, unfortunately, we got to work out some technical things. So it'll be online by next week, let's say by Monday or Tuesday, probably before that, but let's just set the goal for Monday. It'll be online on Monday, and then it'll be at the municipal offices when it reopens. You think Tuesday's realistic? Well, it'll be at the municipal office today.
It should be at the municipal office, but we have to get the USB.
Yeah, we have to get some thumb drives. But if you brought your own thumb drive, you could get it. Or you brought your own disc, you could get it starting Tuesday? Tuesday. It'll be online within 24 hours in the learning portal. So if you had someone that couldn't. And remember, all the emails will be there, all the handouts will be there. So when we get done with this program, everything we learn will be there. And how long is that available to you? Does anybody know? How long?
Here's hoping forever.
Forever. Can I share it with other people? Anyone you want. Anyone you want. You want to take it back to work and use it in the workplace? Go. I don't care. Use it. We just want leaders. We just need leaders. If we're going to create something special that would be a beacon of hope to the rest of the world, then we've got to be willing to freely share. Okay? All right, everybody. Thank you for your time.